Welcome back for After the Beat, your YouTube exclusive. Sorry about that. I forgot to mention it on the other part of the show. What can you do when you sleep 2 hours a night? All right, my name is Luke Thomas. You know me. Then it's Danny Segura, Phoenix Carnivale, and Iceman Chuck Mindenhall in the hat at the very end of the table. As I mentioned, we have taken your tweets, questions, bitches, gripes, smart-ass remarks, using the hashtag #TheMMABeat. We have selected the best to answer. Let's go to the first one. All right, Danny, can the panel recommend a boxing or MMA book? What do you got?
A book. Danny?
Book.
He's like, book reading. Anyone can go. I started with Danny, but anyone can go.
MMA related. Whatever. I read Uriah Faber's one.
Why?
It was, I don't know. I just did.
All right.
I think that's the only MMA book that I've read.
There's so many good boxing ones.
There's so many good boxing ones, yeah.
Just a couple of good ones.
Ghost of Manila. Mark Cram is amazing. If you like, you want to know about the thrill in Manila and just the kind of ambiance that was going on, is a brilliant book. The Fight by Norman Mailer is an amazing book about the rumble in the jungle. Sweet Science is probably the best boxing book I've ever read.
Sweet Science, definitely.
By A.J. Liebling. I mean, there's a lot of good boxing literature. If you just
look at you coming alive on this
You gotta
question.
hook me up with that list.
Blood in My Coffee.
They're all good, yeah.
You read Blood in My Coffee?
I haven't read that one.
It's about the doctor in the corners for Muhammad Ali fights. Really, really good. Is it Ernie Pacheco or Freddie Pacheco or something like that? And then the MMA book. I mean, everybody's read The Fighter's Heart, right? And The Fighter's Mind.
Sam
Sheridan.
Sheridan, that's it.
That's pretty good. I love Anderson Silva's technique book from like a million years ago.
The Victory Press ones.
I think so, yeah.
I've got virtually all of them.
And then this is really interesting. It's not MMA related, but it's fighting related. It's called On Combat, and it really describes like what goes on in the mind before fighting. It's more for the military and police officers and first responders, but it's interesting to talk about adrenaline dumping and all this type of things that happen.
I would go with a book. I forget the name of the author. He's not particularly heralded in any wide regard, but it's a really interesting book on the history of judo in Japan and in Europe and how it came to be and what makes it special. It's called Falling Hard.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic. Easy to read. It's not overly dense, but still full of really interesting historical information and anecdotes. And you learn where jiu-jitsu comes from, and you learn where judo comes from, and what separates them, and how judo became institutionalized in Japanese academia through the Kodokan, and how it got to Europe, and why are the French so good at judo? Like why? He explains the whole story about that. It's really, really cool. You would think the French, everyone takes them for I mean, the Russians are really good, the Georgians are really good, things like that. Obviously, the Japanese and the Koreans are pretty good. But you forget the French, boy. The French will they'll put hands on you. And in America they have a reputation as being soft, but they're pretty good at it.
Josh Gross's book is also just as one of our colleagues about Ali and
Inoki.
Inoki, yeah. That's also a really good book.
Yeah, it is.
That's something if you want to read something by one of our guys.
There's another good one. So there you go. Great contributions, Danny. Thank you.
Anytime.
All right. Does anyone on the panel watch Game of Thrones?
Yes.
So who's your favorite character and why?
Yes, I do.
Phoenix, you want to go first?
Oh my God, I have too many.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
What was the actual question?
Does anyone watch Game of Thrones, and if so, your favorite character?
Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Phoenix.
Baelish.
Sunday is the first episode of the final season.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's fun.
it is.
Joffrey.
Arya.
That kid had it, man.
He was really well behaved and well liked.
Arya Stark, because she's the most ninja-like of all
Arya's
of the
badass,
characters.
for sure, yeah.
That's my answer.
I like the Hound. I think the Hound is a great
awesome.
character. Who else?
Jamie,
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage.
Is he still on the show, or has he been killed off yet?
Tyrion Lannister.
There you go.
What's
This is
Tyrion
my life.
Lannister's right hand?
He's the
What's his
right
name?
hand to. Oh, you mean Captain Friendzone? What's his name? The guy who had grayscale.
No.
Can't remember.
Oh, man.
No, not him.
And you got the nerve to be mad at me for liking Star Wars?
I love
Bro,
Star
Game
Wars.
of Thrones is
We're
sick.
with
What are you talking about?
I mean,
You don't watch
the
it?
hypocrisy.
Bruh.
Here's the thing: I have nothing against it, but I missed all of it.
It's something with a
and
B.
so I don't want to start in the middle, and I haven't
Bran.
made time to start from
Bran,
the
yeah.
beginning.
No.
I got
no.
you.
Yeah, Braun.
Yeah, it's been all the way
It's Braun.
through.
Everybody I know
Bran
who
and
has
Bran.
decent
I
taste
hate
in
the.
TV
I
likes
hate
it.
how.
I know what
I
you're
mean, I
talking
watched
about.
it all basically and caught up to where it's at, all through like a serially, going through it. But I hate the time off because then you kind of forget the storyline. Maybe.
Nah,
so you
I'll just rewatch it.
I'll just go back and rewatch the last one. You know what I mean? And try to.
Oh wait, so
remember-
you're a Game of Thrones fan?
I've watched it. I wouldn't say I'm a
Okay.
fan.
Are you
no.
cut
It's
up?
okay. I like
Have you
it.
seen everything till?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I hate the.
So you're the odd one out here.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was bad. I just from the advertisements, it's like I don't know. It's like, do I really want to watch the Renaissance Festival over and over
It's
again?
not. It's totally
They don't
not.
even eat turkey.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I know. It's like
Plus, the budget, I think it's the highest ever for any
Every
show
episode's
produced.
a movie.
Yeah.
Really?
It's literally
Yeah,
a
pretty
movie
much.
budget
My
for
budget
every
is
episode.
insane.
my favorite character is Halfdior Bjornsson.
It's just
who
as high
plays-
as the shows.
Who plays the Mountain? Again,
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
who I'm sure, by the way, competes in strongman all clean.
He's also
because what we
okay,
really
yeah.
care about in sport is when our athletes are clean. I'm sure that's what we actually care about.
Not an
Hypocrisy
athlete. He's a
hashtag.
mountain.
Pulling
All
a
right.
truck is different than punching a face.
Well, not necessarily, right? Because
Well, he did crush that skull, so we
Well,
did
hold
see
on,
us a lot
hold
of
on.
strength.
Remember,
pointing it.
remember,
Yeah,
part,
yeah, yeah.
remember the partly why things are banned. 1, because it provides a performance enhancement. 2, because it can be bad for you. 3, against the spirit of the sport. Those are the criteria. In any sport, he would fail 2 of those.
Yeah.
In any sport. So just saying.
No, I get your point.
Just
totally.
saying,
I was just
saying a little bit
messing
of hypocrisy from everyone out there being like, I love strongman. Well,
I'm
strongman
still
is
strong
steroids.
views on this one about these PEs.
with you. Yeah.
I just can't stand. I cannot stand the total hypocrisy on it. But it just that's another, leave it alone. Leave it alone. All right, next. All right, there, Chuck. Is Modelo to UFC fighters what Madden curse is to the NFL? First, they sponsored Stipe, goodbye title. Then they sponsored Ortega, hello Max's record-setting
I have
output.
not considered that, but I guess that's
I think
true.
it's still too early to tell, though. Is there any other examples out there?
I think they've only run 2 campaigns. The 2 that the question is identifying.
Well, it's certainly off to a bad start, isn't it? So
Well, here's why I included it, not to like besmirch Stipe or Ortega, who are 2 great fighters, who, by the way, could be champions again. One never really knows, but rather how hard it is to identify promising talent
Yes.
that can last.
Yes.
Because you can find good fighters. Ortega's a good fighter. Stipe's a good fighter. And then John Jones was a good fighter, but then he had his own issues. And then DC was a good fighter, and whatever. Kane was a good fighter. But to find someone who's a good fighter who can maintain that status over time in MMA,
they should have jumped on that Max.
It's a lot
Holloway
easier in
bandwagon
other
about
sports
2 years
for sure.
ago.
Yeah.
Wheaties and Anthony Pettis.
another good one.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I
Another
mean,
good
like,
one. That was
why do
literally
we
the kiss of death
always
for that
have
guy.
to tell the story of the champ, right? Why can't these ads also be about people who are just really awesome competitors and contenders and stuff like that? So beer drinkers. I don't necessarily always need it to be about like the guy on top, but as long as it's like it's a cool person with an interesting story. Stipe totally had it with the fireman thing, and then Brian has it, coming from that
Yeah,
side of
in
LA.
fairness to Modelo, it actually worked out really well for a
Yeah.
time with Stipe.
Yeah.
It was just, I think they were banking on Ortega to have a big turn, and he went up against a buzzsaw in Max, which is no fault. I mean, Max might end up being a champ all time great. Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes you come off a loss like that, and you do become that guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and Ortega's
Oh, yeah.
young enough where you're like, and he's so good already.
But have you noticed
he
that,
benefits from it.
in MMA we have so few like sponsors generally, but like perennial ones. Like,
I know.
think about it. Like, you see, I was reading about this. Like for Space Jam 2, some of the basketball players are not going to be able to get in there because they have like, 10-year-long shoe deals that won't allow them to be in there.
That's
Who has a sponsor that lasts that long in MMA? Like nobody. No, it's because the careers go like that. All
I would
the time.
take the shoe sponsorship for 10 years. though, ahead of
Reebok.
the
I
movie.
forgot
Ahead of the
about
movie roll.
that. Say again?
I said I would take whatever they're getting for that shoe sponsorship ahead of the movie roll, though. I'd be like, I'd take the.
Oh, the cash?
those guys are just like.
versus playing the Monstars
Exactly.
or whatever.
Exactly.
Who cares about that?
It's hard for me to feel too sorry for them, but
Yeah, no, it's just I'm just pointing
No, I
out
know,
like
I
you have
know.
these legacy
Yeah.
sponsorships.
Xbox did a great thing with Demetrius, but then
Yeah, they dropped him. That was kind of
that was because of Reebok.
You know what really killed me about that? That was so bad about that was after he left the UFC. Like I guess there was just bad blood between them, or they had both moved on. But I'm waiting for someone to stick with somebody other than Polo, I guess, and Luke Rockhold. We'll see how long that lasts. But I'm waiting for someone to like find an MMA fighter and really put their arm around them in a real concerted, no BS kind of way. But so far, it hasn't happened yet.
Buffalo Wild Wings and Michael Chandler.
No, Dave and Buster's.
Oh, Dave and Buster's, that's what it was. Yeah.
Dave and Buster's.
Buster's, yeah.
Boni Acai and other Brazilian fighters.
I don't know that I would put Boni Acai on the level of like Levi's or, something big like that. Next. All right. Would you consider surgeries? I love it. I'll leave this question because everyone gets real quiet. Like Lasik, performance enhancing. It's not a drug, but it is giving the body an unnatural improvement similar to TRT. Well, not really in the I mean, TRT doesn't make your vision better, but I know what he's saying. Where do we draw the line? What do you guys consider? LASIK surgery, performance enhancement?
What is
Hindsight's
LASIK
20/20
film?
on this one.
LASIK is when you can have really bad vision and you get laser eye surgery to then you can get even better than 20. You ever had LASIK? Yeah. By the way, did
Better
it
than
suck?
2020?
You can get better in 2020 with LASIK. Yes.
really?
You can get 2010. Yeah. Or whatever the.
It's
thing is.
amazing.
Yeah.
It takes 15 minutes. You're uncomfortable for a couple hours.
Can you
wake up the
blink?
next morning. No, but it's like Clockwork Orange. It's like
Oh my God.
your
I
eyes
can't
like
stand
open.
people touching my eyes.
And-
I would freak out.
No, it's not
I
as
can barely
bad.
put eye
No,
drops.
No, sure.
know.
It's not as bad as you think. It like they hold it open for you, and then like it's just a little machine. Zzz, you're done in 15 minutes.
Now, how bad was your vision before?
Oh,
You were
it
blind
was
as a bat?
so bad. Yeah. It
Do I
was
recall
so
correctly
bad.
that you used to wear glasses?
I wore them once on the show because the couple days before you get LASIK, you can't have your contacts in. And then I had LASIK a couple days later, and you're fine. And you, for the first week, everything's too bright, so you have to wear sunglasses. But then after that, you're like, I can see everything now. It's amazing.
Interesting. What do we think?
I mean, it seems to me like you have a basic right to one of your senses.
Do you? Matt Hamill didn't.
Well, I mean, if you can get it. I mean, if somebody said, hey, we can fix your hearing for Matt Hamill, I'm sure we would be like, that's awesome. We wouldn't
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, but part of that could be a financial constraint.
Yeah.
Part of that could be
True.
a medical constraint about what country you're in. But are there enough serviceable doctors? Like, there's a lot of barriers to getting what you are biologically owed, or whatever the word would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the answer is just pretty clearly performance enhancing, right? If you can go from not seeing Jack S to be able to see, the question is that something you want to prohibit? And I would say no, you would not want to prohibit. Dude, that's a quality of life thing. Like, you would not want to
is.
prohibit. Just sort of pointing out
It's not a PED.
certain things. Everyone just lies like, oh, I don't want chemicals, but any other thing other than that gives you a distinct and extraordinary advantage is totally fine. Just want to point out more hypocrisy.
There's a lot of it out there.
Yeah,
I
there's a
think
lot
there's
of it.
levels to
wear your boots.
one thing to another.
Oh,
you know?
okay. Tell me what is acceptable about.
Oh my God, we're staying on this subject. I don't.
You did
You
this.
keep
I
denying
know.
me. You keep
no,
denying
I'm
me.
not denying you. I actually really like the fact that you pose the question and make us like look at it at a broader spectrum, because it's very easy to say this is wrong and that is wrong, and to really think about it.
I'm not
I actually
asking
do
people
respect
to
that.
agree. I'm asking them to flush out the debate.
Right, and I see that. I respect that. But I feel like vision is something that could kind of be universal because you can wear contact lenses. Whereas if I'm recovering faster or stronger, in a somewhat, oh God, because then I say vision, it's unnatural. You were born blind, whatever. But I don't know. I feel like there's levels to one. It's an
I think
extreme.
with a vision, then you'd
right?
be nitpicking a little bit.
Yeah.
No, I think vision is one of the central senses of your body.
Really?
And, well, think about it. Let's see. Hearing, seeing, touch, right? Having these things, these are core to not merely fighting.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
core to the human experience.
Right.
And aiding that and telling me that that is not as a profound a change in a person's athletic life as maybe getting let me finish. Getting a TUE for an inhaler, which is a big controversial thing in Europe. That seems to me total BS.
But just because you have eyes now that can see like the hair follicles on someone's arm doesn't mean your Kimura is going to be better.
Right.
No, but it
You
means
know?
your depth perception might be better. It means your reaction time might
But-
be better.
but it's
It makes your ability to read attacks, footwork, all of that better.
But it's
All of it.
supposed to be an even playing field,
But
right?
it's not,
so
right?
we assume that everybody's size
not
is
a
supposed to be similar. Their records and training levels are supposed to be somewhat similar. That's why we have divisions.
Yeah.
That's why we have weight classes.
Sure.
That's why we have all that stuff. So we're looking at leveling the playing field as much as possible. And I think that that's where the
You're
sort
bringing
of
up to a
drug
baseline
issue.
of like you said, the human experience. You're bringing it up to the baseline, right? Because it's a disadvantage to have an eye problem or a hearing problem.
But not
Yeah.
everyone. But not
Yeah.
everyone has access to LASIK. Not
True.
everyone. And by the way, LASIK can go past the normal. It can go into unnatural.
No, I don't
right?
have super.
You don't have it? A buddy of mine got
all.
LASIK, and he has the super duper kind. I just think it's totally disingenuous.
I would have asked for that.
I just think we all need to be honest
the
about it. I'm
Predator
not.
mask?
Yeah.
I'm not against LASIK in any capacity whatsoever. I think you should be able to get it. All I'm asking people to do is stop telling me that the only advantages conferred that matter are the ones that come from chemicals. Quite clearly, having your vision go from blurry to not to perfect or even above that, dude, that will make you qualified to fly jets. You can't tell me that's not dude, if you don't get LASIK, you can't fly the jets of the United States military, but if you do, you can? Come on now. Come on. That's a major, major improvement in your ability to function as a human being. All I'm saying is you should allow it. just can't all be chemical. That's all. That's all I'm saying. All right, I'm done with that because I know the comments gonna be like, but Luke loves steroids. All right, here we go. What do you guys make of Conor disclosing he broke his foot 3 weeks out from the Khabib fight? Did you guys see this tweet?
I
I did see the tweet.
What did you make of it?
But let's put it this way. I saw a repackaging of the tweet. Did he post like some kind of X-ray or something? Was there like an actual proof that he did?
No, somebody
just said
tweeted at him, and then he just kind of
I
revealed
don't know,
that.
man, because I'm not calling him a liar, but he says a lot of stuff, It's like, I don't know
Yeah,
if
but
that's true.
particularly to this subject, he had torn, was it his ACL? He had torn something in his
Well, he tore his ACL, but I think he had torn some ligaments in his knee. You're talking about before the Chad Mendes
for the Chad
fight?
Mendes fight, yeah. And he didn't say anything.
189.
189. And I remember Dana White had said like, yo, because in that Notorious documentary, I recently saw it on Netflix. Dana White before was there and he knew obviously what was going on with McGregor. And he never really said it, but he said, man, if you knew what this kid went through, like, you know, he didn't make comments like that in the media. And Conor McGregor never said anything until that footage came out in the documentary. He's never been someone that after a fight goes out there and starts making excuses, and I did this and I did that, and he's always owned up to his losses, even the Diaz one. Like he's always like, "Yep, I lost." That's that. So you see that tweet, and you could be like, "Hey, it could be one of the million things he says," but there's as far as that specific subject go, he usually has some continuity, I guess. So
Well,
it makes you think.
let's just be scientific. How long does it take a broken foot to heal? And how
It's also we don't know
awesome
how
or-
bad it
long-
was.
Was
Yeah.
it fractured?
Depends on what it was.
Because you
Yeah,
can
exactly.
understand a fracture is
bones in
different than a
Yeah.
break,
Right.
and you know what I mean. So I don't know.
Did he get a cortisone shot?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, like,
Here's my read on this: true, untrue.
doesn't
Guess
matter.
as good as mine.
Yeah.
He's trying to get a rematch.
I know.
He is.
Right.
It seems to me that fight.
Also, we don't know what state Khabib went into as well.
Right. Good point. The guy cuts a lot of weight. You know. Besides that, it just seems to me that that loss is eating at him. It's eating at him a lot, and he wants a rematch, which would be you would expect that from a hardcore competitor, right?
Seems like it's getting.
Yeah, if you're punching
It seems
bar
like it took him a
patrons.
while to get there, though. I don't know
little
if it's
bit,
been
yeah.
eating at him. It seems
Yeah.
like it's only eating at him. It's getting bigger as it goes,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean so initially it didn't
I don't
feel
think
that way?
it did. I think he was because he was coming off of these are major paydays. He had his whiskey about to launch. I think there was so many other factors. I think now that he's got everything kind of dancing to his tune,
That's
and he's had
interesting.
time to reflect on
Yeah,
it.
I mean, he originally said like, "Hey, I kind of want,
Yeah.
like, I would like the rematch, but I'm, in that statement he put out as soon as he lost. But I'm open to fighting other competitors as well." Now it kind of feels like the gears are turning towards the rematch.
That's interesting. Yeah. I again, could be because if you've had injuries like that, some guys are just injury prone. They fight through it.
Yeah.
And some guys aren't. Could be a foot injury like that with a guy who has footwork.
Yep.
Seems reasonable. Next. All right, Kelvin and Izzy have been in camp for most of the last 16 weeks. Do any of you have concern that this will possibly negatively impact either of their performances? Lots of chance for injury, lack of motivation. Kelvin mentioned this on Embedded, as I indicated earlier, body breaking down. Now, there's sort of two ways you could go. That's one way you could go. You could go the Matt Serra route, where the GSP fight was supposed to happen. He gets injured, and then he has a back-to-back camp, and he came out all guns blazing. What do we think? Are we going to see a little bit of a lackluster performance from either of these guys?
Good.
Do you get a read on that?
So my bigger concern is like that this is his sixth fight in 14 months. And you think of guys who've done that in the past, and who was it? It was Donald Cerrone had like 5 fights in a year, and I think the last one was Nate Diaz at the end of the year. It could have been, and he didn't have. I mean, he got smoked in that fight. He took like crazy amount of damage. It was nuts.
But Adesanya didn't.
True. I'm saying like I think that sometimes these guys are affected by fatigue factors and exhaustion basically, and they don't even realize it. They
Yeah.
get in there and they have to realize it the existential way with a guy punching you in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could see something like that happening. Sure, it's a lot of workload, man. I know that Israel Adesanya said he still kind of took little mini vacations in there, but ultimately he gets right back in there and he just keeps going.
Well, when it comes
Yeah.
to overtraining, there's a couple of things that they test for. Like with overtraining, you'll test yourself in the morning to see if your heart rate is regularly elevated, if your body temperature is different, if you're more fatigued, how your sleep and your REM cycles are supposed to be, how your hormone levels are. So if you're testing fighters or you're trying to be a little bit more psychological and scientific with your training, you'll kind of see those dips in the roads and when you need to take those 2 or 3 days off, when you need to do more recovery in your training, when you have to check your hydration, when your weight cuts are. I mean, that's why like in regular sports, there's camps, there's times when you're, not camps, but there's seasons for things, right? And an athlete peaks at a certain point of that season. It's supposed to be the same way with fight camps too. Really good strength and conditioning coaches will do that. So I'm only concerned if they're not monitoring their fitness levels. And that adrenal fatigue might have happened where he started to lose his motivation, and people always think it's psychological, get your head in the game. Sometimes it's physiological.
Sure.
Sometimes the physiological effects are psychological and vice versa. So hopefully in this particular case, you're hanging out at the PI, you're taking a look at these type of things, and you're good to go. You know, I think that the sports science has definitely really advanced so much nowadays that I only worry if this is not being taken into account and they're fighting the old school, tough it up way that could injure them.
Also, these guys, as I mentioned, all in their 20s. I do think that makes a difference in terms of burnout and fatigue and things like that.
I do have concerns, not so much on the Kelvin Gastelum side because, yeah, he just went through a training camp, but he hasn't been as active as his number of fights. But I do have a concern with Israel Adesanya. I spoke to Brandon Moreno, you know, a number of times I've interviewed him. And, you know, when I think it was 5 fights in the span of 12 months. And every time I would interview him, he's like, nah, that's it. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to chill for a few months. I've made some good money. I'm going to chill. Next thing you know, like a couple weeks later, he would get a fight announced. And he would be like, well, they kept offering me, you know, an opponent ranked higher, good opportunities, and he was winning. He was making bonuses. Then I remember, I forgot what was one of the last fights. I think it might have been Dustin Ortiz. He's like, no, for sure I'm going to take a break. Then they offered him a main event bout in Mexico City against Sergio Pettis. He's like, yo, I can't turn that down. So he accepted it. And then he went in that fight, lost, and then I interviewed him after, and he's like, hey, man, I should have listened to my body. This was my body telling him, you need to stop. Because piled up weight cuts, wear and tear of the fights, wear and tear of the training camps. He was like, I cannot explain it to you, but I was literally in the fight telling my body to do something, and it wouldn't do it. It was the weirdest thing. I'm not making any excuses, but I'm definitely going to listen to my body now. I'm going to take a break, and he did.
Worth remembering, real quick, is Israel Adesanya as a kickboxer was really prolific. There was one year where he fought in the span of a year something like 8 or 9 times, and in a week, in like a 3-week span on 2 different continents, he fought in Glory in Broomfield, Colorado, and then like somewhere like China or something like that, like 3 times. So one of them being like 2 in one night. So the dude is used to keeping himself
also
the training to MMA.
Of course, I know it's a lot different. I know it's a lot different.
Also,
but I'm just saying
he doesn't cut that much weight.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, Brandon Moreno was also in his 20s. He's a super young guy. I mean, I don't know. Each fighter is differently. You get the Neil Magny type that can fight forever, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not undermining. I think you make a great point.
But I think it's something to consider, especially given Adesanya's comments. He has said, after fights, hey, I want to
take a
chill.
break. Yeah.
And then he gets another fight.
It was funny. He wanted to go back to Nigeria after his last win.
Yeah.
He was like, well, they got an election. And
Worth mentioning.
And he goes, and I know things might get rowdy there. And then they canceled the election. Or delayed it, one of the two. And I was like, yep, Israel called it. There you go. But yeah, I think you make a good point. So
better that he goes with a belt.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Next. All right. What's some embarrassing or horrible jobs you ever had? What's the worst job you've ever had?
Ooh.
The worst one.
And Phoenix is grinning over here at me.
I've had some pretty...
Is it this one, Phoenix? Is that why you're looking at me?
I was a flight attendant.
Were you really?
It was horrible.
You just throw drinks in
It
people's
was so
faces?
horrible. And
That would be tough.
Here's how.
Now hold on. Was it a budget airline or
It was a super budget airline. It reminded me of that movie. It was like the ghetto airline.
Soul
it was
Soul
Soul
Plane.
Plane.
Soul Plane. Yeah.
I worked
Sophia already got
on
it.
a Soul Plane.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes. It was so bad. And here's how, this is so many years ago, I was like a white belt in karate. And I used to just read martial arts books in the back of the plane. And we had a self-defense class came in, and I was good because I had taken a couple classes. So the airline actually hired me to be the self-defense instructor for all of the flight attendants.
Bro.
And I was literally copying stuff off of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu book, and that's what I was teaching.
Wow. And this is her worst.
And I was like, no, that was awesome.
Did you ever have to put the old chopped sake on somebody?
I like let a couple people know, but being a flight attendant is so hard. I don't think anybody understands. It is such a horrible job. You are in a vomit-smelling tube for hours at a time. It was really difficult. I hated it.
Now, were you just national or international?
It was international, but we'd fly back like the same day. Like we'd drop all these tourists off in Mexico to go on like an Apple vacation, and then we would just hang out in Mexico for like 22 minutes and fly back the same day.
Oh God.
The worst job I've ever had. And I have sinus problems. I'm having the sinus surgery actually at the end of the year.
Hey, me too.
It just would like, it would kill me. It was the worst job ever.
Yeah, that sounds not fun. What about you, Chuck? Worst job?
I was a bounty hunter for a while now.
I was like, Boba Fett?
My first job was dishwashing, so I guess that's still. It's kind of weird though, because you look back.
Bro, I
and
wash
like,
the dishes at my house
like,
every day.
but yeah, you know, at a restaurant, it's high volume.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
And I kind of look back on it fondly too. So it's like it really sucked at the time, but I look back on it now and it's kind of fun to remember that. But that was probably the worst.
Okay, that's an industrial sized dishwasher. What about you?
Well, I just want to quickly say I delivered pizzas.
Ooh.
But all my best friends from high school, we worked at the same pizza place. So it was actually one of the most
fun.
Yeah, it was super fun.
You were spitting in the food,
It was
huh?
one of the best. No, I wasn't. But I was eating pizza every day for free,
After smoking
hanging out with the
bongs.
boys in the back. It was fun. Shout out to Hungry Howie's. But the worst job I've had was at an Italian restaurant. I was a busboy. I was like 16, 17. And I was like cleaning bathrooms. I was, just doing everything. Like anything that nobody wanted to do, it was like, yo, Danny, go do it. And then not only that, but like the owners were super mean and, I was getting paid nothing. Yeah, that was the worst experience.
I've had a lot of bad jobs. Wow.
So have I.
I don't even know where to start. I've been fired from so many. Let's see. I got fired in high school from Chick-fil-A. Turns out you can't tell customers to go F themselves.
Especially there.
Yeah.
Very religious.
Got fired from Baskin Robbins for taunting other employees. Let's see. I got fired from a place here in New York City bouncing because I didn't show up, which is understandable. Let's see. Inside the military, I had, well, they're not jobs, but like occasional duties. I've burned feces, which now actually turns out to be like a veteran's health issue. I've done that.
What?
So what happens is they would have what do you do with waste? Human waste. You have to burn it to get rid of it. And then here's the trick to it. One person has to stir it so it burns evenly. So your boy
At the
has
end of the show, man.
your boy has done that, and it is
So
not.
stirring shit is something you're very, very.
You ever done it?
No.
No. No. Understand? You're not stirring feces. You're stirring burned feces.
Wow.
It is.
Do you have a gas mask? Or something?
We had to get a T-shirt and tie it around our faces.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was not awesome. It was not
You
awesome.
win.
If you're wondering
you
why
win this
Luke stirs
entire
shit up.
conversation.
I
I thought mine was bad because I've cleaned like throw up out of the
I have
sink,
stirred burned feces, so that was awesome. And then shouts to the Greenleaf Cafe. I think it's still in business. I was a doorman's, bouncer in my senior year in college at like the coolest bar in town, which was a place called the Greenleaf Cafe. God, what a S show that was. Chucking drunks out, people fist fighting in the bathroom. Had people pull knives on us. Like, it was a disaster.
I think the shit one is worse.
Yeah, that was worse.
Yeah,
that was worse.
does not sound.
It was worse. I only had to do it once or twice, but it was not. I did not enjoy that. I want everyone to know that I did not enjoy that.